Seemed to be just some general frustration this week with the lack of getting that downfield passing game going. As you guys looked at the tape, did the practice this week, what kinds of things is it going to take to get that going?
Just keep working at it, keep getting better. We hit a few down the field passes the week before versus Chicago. We had a couple opportunities versus Detroit on some deep balls. Almost caught it, and then it came out against Tillman there at the end of that game. But we knew we were going to have some opportunities in this game. We didn't come down with them, and it's affected us.
Is there something that was happening last year that's not happening this year?
In terms of what?
In terms of getting everybody on the same page, getting those throws completed.
No, I think last year I don't think we took a lot of down the field shots. A lot of the play pass plays we got to do were quick ones over the middle. We do those when the coverage presents itself. When you get a quarters defense, which I don't think we had too many quarters teams we played against last year, but Denver was a heavy quarters team. When you get a quarters team, you don't get the passes over the middle. You got to attack on the outside down the field, or you got to attack over the top, over the safeties. And when you're in quarters, all the checkdowns are matched underneath, so it's a little type different coverages.
I know you guys always say there's never one thing and we need to execute more, but specifically not a long passing game, but just a passing game in general. Pierre obviously came out and voiced his frustration. You guys haven't been able to do some of the things you did last year, completion percentage and rating and all that. Is there anything you can attribute it to? Does Robert not having an off season still linger in that way, or is that not a fair explanation?
I think everything has a factor in that. We're definitely not where we want to be in any part of the game, but especially in the pass game, and we have made some strides. In certain areas. We were, I think, 20th in the league last year. We're 10th in the league this year. The completion percentage isn't there. We've had to do some different stuff. Last year, there was one play in particular that we ran 80 times and we completed it 60 times. And that play is there versus certain coverages. We haven't got that coverage as much as we did last year. So we've had to do a few more stuff we didn't have to do as much last year, and we haven't done it very well. We've got to get better at it. You can't just run the same stuff all year. And the new stuff that we have done are not necessarily new, but stuff we didn't do as much of last year. We've been in situations where the defenses take a certain type of play away, more an easy play, and you got to do the harder play. And they're going to do that, and you're going to have to keep doing it until you can't execute it and get them out of something that you're struggling against.
Kyle, a few times in recent weeks, Robert has been hit pretty hard and hit often. I think last week he took 13 hits. Are you concerned at all about the protection he's getting, and is there anything that needs to change there?
I think that game versus Denver looked pretty much like every game does versus Denver. When especially with 58 out there, and you watch any of their tape last year, when you got DBs who play man coverage, so you don't have easy checkdowns, and you got a pass rush that's pretty good, especially with 58 back there, and they hit every quarterback. That's how it is when you throw the ball. You always want to protect them. You always want to keep them upright and take those hits off. But you turn on any tape versus Denver and that pass rush, especially when 58's out there, I think a lot of those games will look worse, and not many will look much better.
Kyle, there's some questions raised about whether you maybe got away from the running game prematurely in Denver, particularly that one possession when it was 21-21, I think. When you look back at that game, what did you think about that?
Well, yeah, you don't have the run calls in the fourth quarter, which I know is what you guys are all getting at, and I don't like it either. I don't realize that till after the game. I know we do better. I know what we want, a philosophy. We want to be balanced, and we weren't balanced there in the fourth quarter. I can attribute to a bunch of things. The main thing is it's not something that you want to do as a play caller, but as I always say, it's tough to get runs called when you don't stay on the field. And we had 4 series there before we were down 17 points with 6.5 minutes to go. And in those 4 series, our longest drive was 3 plays, with another one being 2 plays. And when 95% of the time, all teams in the league, when you throw it on third down and you don't have a drive over 3 plays, in order to get the run stat ratio you guys want to see, you're going to have to be run, pass 4 series in a row to get it. And we didn't do that. We had been running 6 out of the 8 plays we had in the third quarter. We had inserted our receiver on 3 plays in a run play, had that play pass set up, didn't come through with it, didn't get it done. Called a few more play passes that we felt we had set up. And then we did run it and lost a couple yards, but we didn't stay on the field. And I feel if we would have got first downs and stayed on the field, I can promise you that ratio would have gotten back there. But we didn't. So you end up punting in, and the ratio gets skewed. But when I look back at it and I look at myself hard, obviously I didn't do a good enough job. When you turn it over 5 times in the fourth quarter, that's all of us, but it starts with me. That third series in particular, I started out with the play pass that I really wanted to get versus certain coverage, and I didn't get that. So that's definitely one play in particular. I wish I ran it on first down on that third series.
And what do you think about the overall production in the running game this season?
I think it's been right there with last year. I mean, I think we got good yards per carry. I think we're doing solid. Haven't gotten Robert on the perimeter as much as we did last year, but we've had our games where we have. But I've been happy with our run game.
That first series he was referring to in the fourth quarter, 2 of the 3 plays, you get an open receiver, you get an achievable gain. Is it tough to commit to the run, I guess, when you don't have that passing game threat to back it up?
It really isn't. It's tough to commit to the run when you don't stay on the field. I mean, those plays were open, and they were open because we had been committed to the run all game. That's what opened those plays up, and we didn't make those plays. And it's frustrating, so you punt, or a couple times we turn it over, and you hope when you get it back, you can get back to it. But you don't just want to do the same thing the whole game. Sometimes you got to switch it up. So we had been running it throughout the third quarter. You want to try to keep them off balance, come out and get a play pass that you have set up. Hopefully you get a big chunk of a play when you do that. And then when you don't, you get behind in the chains. And I could have ran on a couple 2nd and 10s there, but I chose to pass it, did a couple screens too, and it didn't work out. So obviously I look at myself too, and I would have done a lot of things differently because we got our ass kicked there in the fourth quarter, and that starts with me. But it's not at all like where you're sitting there as a coach saying we're getting away from the run game. We're planning on doing what we've been doing all game. But you call plays to attack coverages. You call play passes that you've been trying to set up through the run game. And when you end up punting, it's hard to get those other calls.
Kyle, it's my understanding that you guys have some option plays that are not only, mesh point, running back, quarterback, but also that could be kept to throw out of that option. Do you guys run as many of those this year as you did last year, do you think?
What do you mean? What kind of plays exactly?
Well, and I could be wrong, you can tell me, but where Robert has the option basically to hand off or to keep and throw a bubble screen or something like that.
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, we put those in when the defense shows that it's a good play. Those aren't something that are good every week. Usually when you have an idea of what the defense is doing, it's pretty safe. Sometimes you don't want to put in stuff like that because you can't account for free hitters and stuff like that when your pass options can be covered, and then you're going to hand it off into unblocked guys. So there's a lot of defenses and stuff you can't take those plays into, but every time you can, we definitely have them in.
Kyle, I guess a combination question. You guys had to burn a timeout on the first drive. There was the botched snap between Will and Robert on 3rd and 1. Robert, again, looked like he turned the wrong way on a read option, whether that was Robert or the running back. These kind of things that are still happening almost seemingly every week. How frustrating is that when you guys rep this stuff in practice and then for whatever reason it doesn't go right on game day?
It's extremely frustrating. It definitely frustrates the coaches. It frustrates the players too. That first 3rd down we had to call a timeout because we didn't get lined up right. And the players have responsibility in that, but so do we. I mean, when the players make mistakes, that's the coaches making mistakes too, because it's our job to get them to not make mistakes. On that 3rd and 1 on the fumble, that wasn't a mistake. It was just Monty couldn't hear in the crowd noise. It was real loud there. He thought Robert had said we were going on the quick count. It was a no-huddle thing, which we get snapped pretty fast, and it was taking longer because Pierre hadn't got set yet, so Robert was waiting for Pierre to get set, and Monty just thought he missed the snap count because of how loud it was. So he snapped it thinking he did it, and Robert was looking to make sure Pierre got set, and it was unfortunate. It's one of the things that we try to look at how we can avoid, and that's one of the hard things about going no huddle on the road.
Talking about the play calls, how aware of you of your own tendencies, and how conscious of you during a game that not to fall into a tendency? Some coaches always run to the short side on 2nd and medium or something like that. Do you sort of chart those in your mind and say, okay, I've just the same thing I've done 3 times in a row in this situation. I need to go the other way because the defense is starting to read me. That sort of thing.
Yeah, I play that. That's in my mind almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. What annoys my wife when she's talking to me and I'm not answering her questions because I'm thinking of stuff like that. So we do throughout the game. There's a fine line. You don't want to be over-obsessed with tendencies and not put your best players in the best situation to be successful. But when you do have a tendency, the defense is going to play to it, and it's tough for anybody when they're playing and they know where you're going to go there. That's why we, if you're running the ball in all these situations, and even though it looks good, you're going to get run front, so you try to call a play pass off of it. If that doesn't work and you have a high tendency to follow a play not working with a run, then sometimes you got to man up and call the pass again and have confidence it's going to work, and vice versa. When you throw in a lot of situations, most people will usually throw on third down. Sometimes you got to make yourself run it because you're going to always get past defenses, and just the threat of the run will throw tendencies off. So you always got to keep that in mind to answer your question. But like everything, there is a fine line. You don't want to be over obsessed with something and end up not putting your players in the best position to win.
Santana is a guy that you seem to get a lot of timely plays from him, significant plays from him. Santana. That doesn't seem to have happened this season. What do you see in him?
Well, it's just, Tana's been up and down with how much he's out there. He's only out there when we go 3 receiver sets, and for the most part, that's always on third down. He's made some plays. I think he had more for us earlier in the year. These last few games, we haven't done as much 3 wide receiver sets on first and second down, and that's nothing against him. That's just basically what defenses we want to go against, what coverages they play, what personnel they put in, and it's all about matchups. But Tana's somebody I've always believed in, still do, and I know there was times last year where he didn't do much for us because we didn't go to him for a little bit, and then there was games we really relied on him and needed him, and it's kind of a week-to-week basis when you're a role player like that.
How much is Santana's lack of targets, or maybe playtime, I guess, have to do with Jordan's development and the fact that you need and want him on the field, or are the two things not intertwined?
I think a little bit of both. I mean, it all depends on, Jordan's on the field when Tana's on the field on third down. So and they run similar routes, so you kind of want to see who the defense is going to go to. People have left Jordan in a lot of one-on-one matchups. I have a feeling that's not going to stay for a while, especially with how he's hurt people. And as soon as people start moving the coverages to him, then someone else has got to step it up. Tana's the guy who does it a lot on third down because a lot of plays are designed to go there. But when the coverages take him away, you progress and you go to Pierre or Josh or Hank or sometimes Halou. So you never know who's going to get the ball. You always try to get it to the guys in the best situation, but it is pretty random. There's no exact way to look at it.
Are you pretty content with what you're getting opposite Pierre with Hank or Morgan or whoever, just as a second receiving threat with the opportunities they get?
I think everybody needs to step it up. I think every single receiver, including Pierre, I think myself, I think our quarterback, I think our O-line, I think our running back, I think our whole team does. We're 2-5. There's been some good things, but obviously not good enough. And there's definitely not one position who can just say we're not the problem. It's everybody. And as always, that starts with your offensive coordinator, and it goes to our position coaches, and it goes to every guy out there. We got the same guys we had last year. We need to be crisper. We need to be better. And there's not much more I can say about it, except I just can't wait to Sunday to have an opportunity to try to do that.
Kyle, along with that, there's been plenty of drops this year. You as a coordinator and Robert as a quarterback, is it kind of hard to have confidence and faith in a big spot to throw to some of the guys that have had some of these drop issues? Or
yeah, it's tough to win when you have drops. It's tough to win when you miss a protection. It's tough to win if you have a bad throw. It's tough to win when I give them a bad play call. But we got to overcome it. You can't just start playing differently because you don't believe someone's going to do something. Those are the guys you got. I do believe everybody here is capable. Doesn't mean everyone's done a great job at all times. But if you start worrying about the play that they didn't make before, and you start thinking about that stuff when you're in the pocket or when you're playing in the heat of battle, there's no time to think. You got to react. You got to see coverages, and you got to let it rip, and you got to believe in people. And as a coach and as a player, and we go as far as our guys go, as far as I go, and we all, even though we have had some of those drops, you can't just start avoiding people. You can't. You got to throw to the right guy. You got to expect guys to make plays. You got to try to help those guys, put them in better positions to get more open, to make it an easier throw. But the bottom line is, I got to get it done, and all those guys got to get it done also.
Kyle, I apologize if this was asked earlier, but the downfield passing game worked pretty well last year, 15 yards and down. Not working as well this year. I'm just curious from your perspective why you feel that is.
That's what I was just saying. I think our down the field it depends on coverages you get. A lot of, for Chicago, we had a few passes down the field, that one to Aldrich down there. But last year, it's funny, our yards per attempt and stuff were a lot higher, but they weren't deeper routes. It's a 5-step plan and throw route that we hit going against mainly single safety looks. A little quick play pass over the top of linebackers. That's not a very deep throw. It's really caught at about 13 yards. But we usually average about 24 yards per catch on it. When you play quarters teams and things like that, you don't have that play. People are sitting there in the middle. So you either got to go to a drop back game, or you got to attack those safeties over the top who are coming up in run support or coming up to get the quarterback in our zone read series. So your choices when you play quarters teams like Denver is to try to suck up those safeties and go over the top of them, all right, or try to throw one-on-ones on the outside the numbers, or it's to run the ball. And when those safeties come up hard, it ends up being a 9-man front, which usually gives you a chance to go over the top, and it's something you got to do, or you're going to be beating your head against the wall going into a 9-man front all game. And the only way to get out of it is to make that play. And we have made it in the past. We had a couple looks versus Detroit when we saw some quarters where we made those plays, but we didn't get it done in Denver. And as the game went, it ends up hurting you when you don't make those plays.
How is Robert handling that aspect of it, do you feel? Is he as accurate as you'd like him to be in those situations?
He is at times. I mean, nobody's perfect. It's a low percentage ball down the field. We're not the 1970 Raiders where I'm just going to say we're going deep for no reason. We're just going to go deep because that's who we are. We go deep when we need to go deep. And when those coverages are presented, you got to get them out of stuff. I mean, they're daring you to do it, and you got to take that challenge, and it's usually the difference in winning and losing. And if you can come up with those plays, I think you got a good chance to win. If they're daring you to go deep and you can't go deep, it's tough to go short also, and it makes it a long day.
There were a couple times in the game where it seemed like he was holding on to the ball for a while. Is that because guys weren't getting open, or he wasn't anticipating them getting open? And how is he doing in that regard there, where you have to throw a receiver open and trust they're going to be there?
There is no one answer. It's all the things you just gave. I mean, there's a couple times where he had to hold on to the ball because I called a play that I was hoping for a quarters, and I got a soft Tampa 2. So everybody's dropping and nobody's there, so you end up just having to check it down. There's some plays where it took guys a little time to get open. There's some plays he could get rid of it quicker, and there's some plays where we didn't block very good enough. So it was really all of the above, from each position to play caller to everything.
Coach, do on some of those anticipation things, how do you get them to be better in that area?
I just think that comes with reps. It comes with learning. When you do struggle on things, it's trying not to get too down and let everybody beat you down. It's really trying to get in there, study the tape, try to figure out why it happened, what you can do next time you're in that situation to maybe see it faster, to maybe let it go earlier, what the receivers could do to maybe show up faster, what I could do to make sure I call it versus the right coverage and not the wrong coverage. But it's all of us. I mean, no one's 100%. When you do have a bad play, we got to survive those bad plays and get it to check downs and just get rid of it. But everybody just working at it and looking at themselves hard and being a man about it and trying to get better. All right, guys.